Okay, continuing on. Well, it looks like the president wants to start over a little bit. So, just a reminder, we talked about the idea of community. There's four steps. The first step is membership. We decide the membership. Then we decide the influence they have as a community. Then we are going to look at integration and fulfillment of needs. So, for example, in the African American community, by being a member of the community, you have maybe mentoring programs, there's church programs, there's different support available, and there's visibility.
Black history is powerful. Black history is inspiring. Black history is American history. Join us this February as we celebrate Black History Month, including new films from the Emmy Award-winning series Independent Lens, where culture and diversity are celebrated all season long. Only on PBS.
And so, as a community, we have now Black History Month, and so there's different ways that we raise visibility by belonging to a community. And finally, the fourth step is that there should be a shared emotional connection. So, within the African American community, there is a shared history, a shared struggle for civil rights, a shared past. So that's an important aspect. So those are the four aspects we're going to be looking at whenever we look at a community. We can look at, for example, how we define Jacksonville, whether Jacksonville is a true community or not. And as you go through these four steps, you start to see, for example, just going through Jacksonville. Membership would be anyone who lives within Duval County. Influence, what influence do we have as Jacksonville residents versus non-Jacksonville residents? Well, vote in city elections. You have certain rights protected by the government, etc. But then it starts getting a little murky that if we were to go back,
Black history
to integration, fulfillment of needs, we still could have mentoring programs, church support programs. We could have different support.
is powerful.
But when we look at shared emotional connection, as Jacksonville residents, do we have a shared emotional connection? Not really. We don't necessarily have a shared history because not everyone who's a Jacksonville resident was born and grew up here. Some people have moved in at different parts of their life. So that's where it becomes a problem, and this is where we go back and look at it really having to be a smaller group. I know when you think of African Americans, that's a huge, massive group. But here's where it comes down to the shared emotional connection. So unless there's that shared connection, it's going to be hard to define them as a community for purposes of the discussions. With Doctor Who, since we're going to be looking at massive communities, we'll be looking at whole planets, then we are going to be able to do something that, for example, that would be a little bit more difficult with Jacksonville, and that is if we look at the planet Earth community. How is that different from the Jacksonville community I just went through? Well, the membership is anyone who lives on planet Earth. Influence, we have influence over our planet, we have influence over our moon to a certain extent. Then, what's the good that comes out of us being together as a community? What kind of fulfillment is it? Well, then we have helping each other, again, the mutual support. Even though we may have wars, we may fight, if there's one thing that brings us together is another enemy. So if we had an alien force coming to the Earth, you would see a lot of these national boundaries, kind of not be as important because we would have a common enemy outside of our planet and our shared emotional connections as human beings versus aliens. So we would all suddenly have a shared history. We're all connected as members of the human race on the planet Earth. So in different ways that it would be harder to define within Jacksonville, it suddenly works on a planetary level within the Doctor Who community, within the science fiction community, it's a little bit easier to make some of these arguments. So going through a third group, since I just kind of went through planet Earth, we'll do another community. So we can do the gay and lesbian community, looking at who's members, then lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, allies, straight allies of lesbian, gay, bisexuals, transgendered, questioning, parents, friends, etc. What influence did they have as a community? Again, more power as a group than as individuals, more visibility as a group. So unlike African Americans, where I didn't put more visibility, because there's two different ways. One, the civil rights movement was so much more galvanizing than it was within the gay community. You also have literal visibility. The more people who are out and acknowledging being gay, you have more people who it suddenly starts to become, and then suddenly it slowly starts to become a more visible, viable group, not seen as a fringe or different, and as the other, which we'll be talking about. Integration, fulfillment of needs. Again, we have the idea of the mentoring programs, youth resources, support, and a shared emotional connection. There is a type of shared history within the lesbian, gay, bisexual community, shared struggle for equal rights, and we see that coming together with different groups that have popped up over the past 50 years. One of the most recent ones is the Give a Damn campaign founded by Cyndi Lauper.
I'm straight.
I'm gay.
And I give a damn about equality.
Want to know why?
Because you can be fired in over half the states in this country for being gay or transgender.
Imagine going to work every day and not being able to share your life with your coworkers out of fear of being let go.
Gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender youth are nearly 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their straight peers.
Imagine if the only way you thought you could rid yourself of the hurt and pain of feeling alone and rejected is to end your life.
Because gay couples are denied the freedom to marry, and thousands of federal and state protections that straight couples receive when they say, I do.
Imagine not being able to marry the person you love most in the world, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with.
These are just a few of the reasons why we care about equality.
It's time for things to change.
We all have to get involved.
We all have to give a damn.
We give a damn to you.
Join us at wegiveadamn.org to learn more.
And so we have all of the 4 requirements met for a community. And next we'll be moving to the exercise that you are going to do this week for homework.